Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Dribble. Yes, the show where we take a closer look into the Boston Celtics, the rest of the NBA, and whatever else might come up. My name is Luke Irwin, and I am your host. Great episode, because as we all know, it is April. April is upon us. That means the NBA playoffs are on the horizon. All the teams in the NBA have about 3, 4, 5 games left, and things are coming down to the wire, right? Seeding, vying for a position. All these teams trying to make the play-in, trying to not fall into the play-in, trying to secure a playoff spot, and just trying to vie for position of who they want to see in round one. Of course, the Celtics have the number 1 seed in the East locked up. That cannot be said about the West. The West, the top 3 teams are all within 1.5 games of each other. So by the end of the season, any of them can have the number 1 seed. And then, of course, the play-in is just stacked with talent and good teams. And like we've talked about so many times, talent, new talent and old talent. There's kind of a changing of the guard, but both are still doing their thing. This episode, I'm going to bring in my degenerate gambling brother. You already know who it is, Timmy KGB, aka T-Bone Steak Extra Rare No Hollandaise. I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about who the Celtics might face, who is in the play-in in the East, who we most want to face, who we really want to avoid, and kind of how things are shaping out health-wise around the NBA. We're going to dive into it, and then we're also going to talk about the West. Like I said, Wild Wild West. You have teams coming up. Teams playing better, teams kind of falling. Injury has kind of bit a lot of people, but then at the same time, people are coming back from injury. So it's just a lot of movement. Super exciting. So yeah, I say we bring him in. Let's stop stalling and let's just bring in Timmy KGB, aka T-Bone Steak, Extra Rare, No Hollandaise. Let's bring him in because there's so much to talk about. And I suggest we do. Because this is The Dribble. Timmy KGB, what is up, dude? We are entering the playoffs. So happy to have you in this beautiful Sunday. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. I missed you last week.
I know. What have you been up to? Been watching the March Madness, watching your bracket sink to the bottom of the ocean?
Watching mine sink, watching yours rise. Luke's in second in our bracket. I just want to say, I mean, this is impressive stuff. Yes, watching the tournament and watching the women's tournament as well. Iowa right now. Getting ready to lose this game to South Carolina, which is unfortunate, but great tournament from Caitlin Clark, and we've been sort of locked into it, so it's been fun. But the men's final is going to be amazing. I'm looking forward to it. This Purdue team is fun. Obviously, UConn is amazing, so I can't wait for it, and we're probably gonna gamble on it for major wager. Would be my guess, right?
We are. Let's get into that. And speaking of who's in the final, the reason that I'm number 2 in the bracket out of 60 or 58, whatever it is, people in the pool is because I had both UConn and Purdue going all the way to the final game. I'm a little bit surprised, honestly, that Purdue's there, but watching them play over the last couple of weeks, it makes sense. They look great.
Yeah, I had them as a relatively early out, but right away watching them in the tournament, I was like, well, that was wrong, along with every other pick I made. But yeah, they look fantastic.
I could pretend that I knew what I was talking about when I picked them making it all the way, but to be completely transparent, I did not think they would really make it that far. So I did not.
You thought they were the chicken processing company, Purdue.
Yeah.
You're like, well, I love their nuggets.
Their nuggets are good. They're delicious. So championship for sure. Championship level nuggets. Absolutely. Shout out to Purdue. Sponsored by Purdue, the Dribble and Major Wager, heavily sponsored by Purdue Chicken. Last time we met, we had a couple different bets in the NCAA tournament. You had NC State plus 6.5. You bet $100 and you won. They won
outright in that game.
Yeah, they won 67-58 in that game. And so you won $90. And then I had Purdue money line straight up again. I was following that Purdue hot streak that I was envisioning, and I bet $100 to win $48, which was a ridiculous bet.
Bold, yeah.
Probably the worst bet I've made, but it of course won, and I won $48. And it's safe to say, like I said, I'm in second. You're in 58th or whatever it is.
It's worse than that.
I also won the gentleman's bet of the bracket, so that's an extra 100 for me and a minus 100 for you. That puts us currently at you with $998, just below breaking even. And I have $1,218.
Not bad. And again, I don't want to, yeah, we can talk about. I think next week is probably a good week to talk about our futures, but
Yeah,
you know, that Maxi bet is looking good. We can talk about the Doncic bet that you made for MVP. Probably a little out of reach at this point, but there's
yeah,
a good argument to be made probably that he could be an MVP. He's been fantastic. The Mavs have been awesome.
yeah,
But yeah, we'll be counting those up too. But we're gonna do this all throughout the playoffs, I assume too, right? So this is, I mean,
absolutely.
we're like the midpoint here. We've got a
Yeah.
lot of
We have a
road
lot
left.
of cool and fun bets too. But the Luka Doncic one, man, I've been loving the surge by him and the Mavs, and good for Kyrie. Looks like he's finally, playing ball a little bit. But I just
Is
don't think
Luca the second best player in the NBA right now?
right
Not to
now.
start off with a totally
Oof,
unrelated question to what we're talking about today, but I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, would it be fair to say that Luka Doncic is the second best player, of course, behind Jokic, or is it
I
still Giannis?
I don't. So I don't think it's Giannis. I think you have to say at this point, if his numbers are just too ridiculous, and his clutch numbers are great, and now the one knock on Luka was that they were not winning, and now they are winning a lot. And his defense is still pretty bad, but he's shown more effort on the defensive end. That's part of the reason that they're winning. Their team overall is rising in the defensive ranks. So yes, like
And it looks like, I mean, not to get ahead of the conversation, but it looks like they're going to get this Clippers team in the playoffs in the first round, who I have absolutely no faith in at this point.
yep.
Um, yeah, I like their path this
Yeah,
year.
they're scary. And Luca in the playoffs, he's one of the best playoff performers in the league right now. Young playoff performers. We've only seen him go so far, but when he does play, he plays. So
That's some moments.
yeah, he's definitely had some moments. But anyway, we will get into that. But let's right now place our major wager bets for this upcoming week. It's NCAA tournament time. So let's pick this championship game, right? Let's pick this championship game. Tim, do you want to go first with your first bet?
Yeah. So the line for this game is Purdue is a 7-point dog,
Yeah.
which I think obviously UConn should be favored in this game. I would have put the line at like 5.5 or even closer to 5 or 4. I like Purdue not on the money line, not to win the game, although I certainly think they could.
Right.
But I like Purdue getting 7 points in this game.
Nice.
So I'm gonna pick two picks just because the Purdue +7 was juiced to like -115 or something. It's a popular pick.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm going to parlay that with an alternate Donovan Clingan points, just
Ooh.
12 plus points.
Okay.
So it's below whatever the total they had given him, but it felt like a safe bet just to nudge that up a little bit over even odds. So it's
Totally.
just a two pick same game parlay. Purdue +7 in that game. Clingan just 12 plus points, which brings the odds to +164.
Ooh.
And I will bet $100 on that.
$100. Timmy with a different bet. Oh wait, no, you bet $100 every single time.
Yes, I do.
Which I'm proud of you. It's consistency.
I'll
I'm
change it
also
up for
gonna
the
bet.
playoffs, but
I like that pick. I like that pick a lot. I am gonna do obviously also the national championship game. I'm gonna have Purdue money line. It's two leg parlay. Purdue money line in the first half only. So not obviously not the whole game. In my bracket, I have UConn winning. I'm not going to go against my own interest. So Purdue in the first half money line. I think they're going to come out strong, and I also think that Zach Edey on Purdue is going to come out strong. I think in the first half he's going to go on a tear, putting Purdue up. But I also have him in the whole game over 24 and a half points for
ooh,
Purdue.
okay.
So with that two leg parlay, I'm putting 100 down, the Timmy special. It's +360 to win out 460.
I like it. I like Purdue to win the first half.
Yeah,
Obviously, I like Zach Edey. He's been super fun to watch in this tournament. He's nasty. I mean, that's just like a really high point total for a
it
national
is.
championship game. But yeah, I mean, I think it's certainly doable. What'd you say the final odds were on that bet?
Final odds are +360. So
Wait,
putting
what
100
are there
down.
just three legs or two legs? Is it also UConn to win?
No, no, I
No.
did not do money line on the game. It's only money line in the first half. Purdue. You think I should add
Throw
UConn?
it in there, baby. I mean, come on. No, 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 no.
No,
Don't
no,
do
no,
it.
no. I'm
Don't.
stick. I'm sticking
That's what
with
I
it.
would do, and I suck.
Exactly. I'm trying. I cannot listen to you. Yeah. So
You
that's a
shouldn't.
two leg parlay. Purdue money line first half, and then the reason for that, like I think Zach Edey is going to go off in the first half, and then eventually get to north of 24 points.
I dig it. I dig
Yeah.
it. Yeah, similar. I mean, I have a similar feeling about this game that I think who knows, either team could win, but I could see Purdue making it really uncomfortable in the first half, and so I like that. Nice,
Yeah.
nicely done. I can't wait to
Thank
watch
you.
it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gonna be exciting. All right. Well, I want to talk about the NBA because that's what this show is all about. And what I really want to dive into is we are getting down to the nitty gritty seeding wise for all teams in the playoffs. And it is a tight race over on the West. And then it's a tight race on the line between play in and playoffs in the East as it stands right now, April 7th, when we are recording this. The Heat and the Pacers are playing as we speak. So
I know
that's a
that's a big one.
huge game. That's a
Yeah,
huge game deciding who is going to be in the plan and who's going to be solidifying that 6th seed outside of the plan. As it stands right now, the teams that are eligible to fall into the plan in the East are as follows. We have the Cavs, they're 15 and a half games behind. The Magic, they're 16 games behind. The Knicks, they're 16 games behind. The Pacers, they're 17 and a half games behind. The Heat, they're 18 games behind. And the Sixers are 18 and a half games behind. So they're all within 3 games. There's 5 games left. All of
that's
those
pretty
teams
wild.
conceivably, right? Isn't that
Yeah,
crazy? And they're all, I mean, look at these records from Cavs down to Sixers: 46 and 32, 45 and 32, 45 and 32, 44 and 34, 43, 34, 43, 35. I mean, they're just like, they all are right there. And obviously, whoever
it's
comes
no
out,
61 and 16. You know.
yeah, yeah. How come nobody's reached north of 60 like the Celtics have? But one of those teams, Timmy, one of the teams, if you don't know how the plan works, you do. But if people listening don't know how the plan works, there are 4 teams that fall into the plan. The top 2 teams play. Whoever loses that game gets a second chance and plays the winner of the 10 and 9 seeds that play. So right now we have the Hawks, the Bulls, the Heat, and the Sixers sitting in the play-in. It would be Heat playing the Sixers. Whoever loses that would play the winner of Hawks playing the Bulls. And then, of course, whoever wins that game is the 8th seed and plays the Boston Celtics. So potentially the Celtics could be playing any of those teams: Cavs, Magic, Knicks, Pacers, Heat, Sixers, or Hawks or Bulls. Not going to rule anything out, but those are the potential teams that the Celtics could be facing. Some juggernauts in there. Some
Yeah,
juggernauts.
time, big time.
Who in there do you least want to see out of all those teams, Timmy?
Well, yeah. So for me, there's a clear answer to this, and I hope by the time this shakes out, by the end of next week, that this team isn't even in the conversation, that they've sort of gotten the 6th seed. But it's the Sixers.
Yeah.
I don't know if you agree with that. We'll get to that in a minute. But look, I mean, this is this team went into an absolute tailspin after Embiid went out in January, right? And they didn't win a lot of games, and they fell all the way down the rankings. And they won 4 in a row with Embiid back. They're easing him back in, but he had 30 and 12 the other night. He looks pretty good, and they look pretty good. I mean, they haven't beaten like elite talent. They beat OKC, but without Shea. They beat Toronto. They beat Miami.
They beat Miami
In a game that Miami tried to do a sort of classic Miami comeback. They couldn't execute it. But I will admit to having some level of anxiety about the idea of playing the Sixers in the first round. I really do.
Yeah.
We clearly have handled the Sixers in the past. Obviously, like even Embiid has said, this team handles us. But I don't know. I like this Sixers team this year. Embiid seems healthy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's just. I mean, that should be a top 3 seed or even a 2 seed if
Yeah.
Embiid goes down in this conference. So I really don't want to play the Sixers. I'm hoping that the Sixers are playing. I believe it's San Antonio today.
Mm-hmm.
So depending on what happens, I think the Pacers could fall. The Pacers haven't been playing super inspired basketball lately.
Nope.
I'm hoping that the Sixers are in that 6th seed, which is sort of where we want them.
Yeah.
Again, not that I'm trying to like dodge the Sixers for the entire playoffs. I think if and when we played them, whether it's the first round or later, we will beat them. But I just feel like that is the kind of matchup that we lose a game or two at home, to
Yeah.
start, and it really gets in our head. And the Celtics could sort of fall into bad habits. And,
And you know how quick,
Maxi's just been so good during this stretch. And
and
there's
so
really
is Kelly Oubre. Kelly
yeah, a
Oubre
lot,
is
lot of
is
guys. Yeah.
They have a lot. They have big guys. They're good on defense. They did fall off without Embiid, but that just shows you what Embiid can provide. And their next game,
He would have been the MVP
yes,
if he had not gotten injured. I really think that's true. I mean, like Jokic deserves to win and probably will win, but there's a real argument to be made for Embiid repeating for MVP. So you
yeah,
don't want to face that in round one if you can
no,
avoid. I
it's a,
think, yeah,
it's just a unique situation that we have because like that team, like you said, should be a 2 seed, and we'll see what they can do. Embiid's not playing today because just sitting, just rest. But they have the Spurs, the Pistons, the Magic, and the Nets. Those are their remaining games. So all of those, the Magic may be a little bit shaky, but all of those teams they can win against.
I
But
was gonna
you're
say
right.
they could be perfect until the end of the season.
Yeah,
So I could really see them getting that
yeah.
6 seed or even higher. And as you said, like all those teams are really bunched together.
Yeah, anybody can fall and rise in the next week, and that's what it's going to be exciting for Celtics fans to be watching who is actually in this plan because it's some people that were familiar foes. Um, I don't Sixers are not my pick to be honest, but
Okay.
they're obviously the second, and it's because of the healthy and I mean relatively healthy. He's probably not 100%, but the Joel Embiid coming back. What has been his one issue in the playoffs? His one issue in the playoffs has been his stamina. He's always lost stamina in games, and that's why Game 6, Game 7, the Celtics have always routed them in those games because he slows down and he's just such a big guy and he's always dealing with ailing injuries. So if he has a body that's working and is not ailing and he just took 25 games off,
Gonna say, yeah.
that's gonna be and right now he perfect timing. 7 games left in the season is when he came back. That's
Yeah.
7 games of NBA play, and he's clearly, like you said, he scored 30 points in like 28 minutes the other night.
And their schedule is so soft that they're going to be able to, yeah, rest him, play him on a minutes restriction, and probably still win,
Yeah,
the majority of their games. So,
yeah, yeah.
listen, who do you
It's
think
tough.
is the scariest of this group?
Mine's the Heat. I think the Heat. Look, and it's
Never heard of them.
PTSD. Yeah, right. It's PTSD because they're in the same position that they're in every single year. Currently, they're floating with the Pacers. They're playing the Pacers right now, like we said. So that's a huge game, depending on where they're going to be. It'd be great if the Heat and the Sixers were out. Again, not dodging them, but it's high blood pressure that I don't want to have in the first round because the
Yeah.
Heat. Look, Terry Rozier is back. He's averaging 20 points and 6 assists. He used to play for the Celtics, and we know what guys like what Eric Spoelstra can do to like motivate guys in the NBA. And I can just see Terry Rozier being back in Boston and being like, "You traded me for Kemba Walker. I'm going to go off. I'm going to just absolutely." And then of course Jimmy Butler and Bam playing well. They've won their 4 of their last 5. They're third in points allowed in defense. But to your point, against the Sixers, they tried to do that classic Heat comeback, but that hasn't been who this team is. Usually this team is a very good clutch team. This team is 24th in plus minus in the clutch. They are also 28th in field goal percentage in the clutch, and they're 18th in 3-point field goal percentage in the clutch. So is that just same old Heat being a mediocre regular season team and then coming alive in the playoffs? Are we being fooled by those numbers? I mean, 24th plus minus, 28th in field goal percentage, 18th. I mean, those are all bottom of the barrel in clutch
I was going to say, yeah.
stats, but like, there's something that doesn't let me trust those numbers. I don't know what it is. I do know what it is. It's Jimmy. It's Jimmy.
Yeah, but I mean, okay, so a couple things on this. Obviously, you have a lot of reasons to pick the Heat here. I mean, just like this is the exact position that the Heat were in, last year, and nobody would have thought that the Heat would have upset. I think Milwaukee had the league's best record last year.
Yep.
Top overall seed, definitely top seed in the East, and then upset us later in the playoffs. And yeah, it's say whatever it is, they flip a switch, and it's all magical language. Like they flip a switch, they have the culture, they know how to win, and like it is true that I think this is probably where Miami wants to be in a sense.
Yeah.
Right? They want to be here. Nobody thinks we're gonna win. We're gonna beat the Celtics and upset them. I mean, this motivates them, specifically Jimmy, and so for all those reasons that I guess they're scary, but I don't know, man. Like the Heat are not a very good basketball team.
Agreed.
They just aren't. And maybe they psych us out by winning a game early in the series, and we beat ourselves in a series versus the Heat. But like Jimmy has not been the same guy this season.
Mhm.
He just isn't like executing and scoring at the level that we're used to. I mean, again, a switch could get flipped here in the
Yep.
playoffs like it always does. And I'm not saying I'm not sort of afraid of Jimmy Butler, but I'm sort of going the other way on this. Like, I would almost go so far as to say I want the Heat in this
I
first
like it.
series. I
I like it.
really mean that. Like, and it's not just because here's the thing. We'll talk at some point about just our general confidence level with the Celtics,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And like I feel confident that they are the best team in the East. And yet, it's far from a foregone conclusion that we are going to come out of the East.
Yeah.
And I think if we play a team like Miami, who every time people criticize the Celtics, the narrative goes back to, losing that series, which it is justifiable because it was a low moment. But
Yeah.
if we meet up against this Heat team and we handle them, I'm talking about a sweep or a gentleman's sweep. Terry Rozier, you mentioned, Terry's shooting them out of games.
Yep. Yeah.
Jimmy's like sort of not showing up in those moments in the clutch where you expect him to. The offense of the Heat is just not good, and so it just doesn't look good. And we find a way to I see it a little bit like the Nets series from a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Like that was the kind of series in the first round where people were going, "Oh God, what we had such a good regular season, but then we get the Nets." And
We
real
swept.
ones were like, "Look, this Nets team isn't that good."
Yeah.
And then, lo and behold, we swept that team, and it was a closer series than that would make it seem. But we won 4 out of 4 games and advanced. And I'm not saying we would sweep the Heat, but I think for this team, for like their own narrative and their own
Yes.
locker,
Mentality.
you
Yeah.
know, to go through and beat this team would be huge early on. And then I think you're coming to that second round with a little bit more swagger,
Yep.
because I think we can talk about this maybe now, but like the Celtics have been in this unique position where, we haven't we're 14 games up on second place. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a pretty crazy number. This like I mean, 61 and 16 is this like palindrome of dominance. I mean, like we haven't had to exert ourselves. We lost those 2 games versus Atlanta, and we can talk about them if we want. We don't really need to, and we
No.
fell into
No.
bad habits. But in general, we've coasted. We've only extended the gap between us and the Bucks
Mhm.
in this stretch, and we've been resting guys.
Yep.
There hasn't really been a sense of urgency because
Yeah.
we there's nothing to play for essentially, and yet, so it makes me a little worried that we come in complacent as this team can do if we're playing like
Mhm.
a Hawks or a Bulls, let's say,
Mhm.
and we go, whoops, the Bulls can actually win some games. I'm not saying I'm more afraid of the Bulls than the Heat, but we come in against the Heat, we're going,
We
let's make
know.
a statement with this series.
Yep. And
Right.
and we know not to underestimate them because that's what we've just seen the ghost too many times. But their numbers again, like, are the numbers fool's gold? Because yes, they statistically, and if you watch them, the eye test, they have not been good all year, but they've also been riddled with injuries. Hero was
Yes.
out for a long time, and
And Hero
Hero's
should be back for this series.
he's back already. He's
Back now?
playing
Okay.
now.
Well,
So
there you have it. Yeah.
the only injury on their injury report is Josh Richardson, who's out for the season with knee surgery. But Josh Richardson's never been part of that world. It's Caleb Martin, it's Tyler Hero, and all it takes is Hero to get on a heater. It's Jimmy buckets. I think the one thing that separates this Celtics team against a team like the Heat, because the Heat love to play zone, is Kristaps Porzingis. He is
Yeah. Yeah.
he's the key that unlocks that team, because if they're playing zone, have him on the high post, pass it in, and he's just gonna shoot. He does that thing where he just shoots over the top of whoever is guarding him. So he dominated also in Miami when we played them. He was I think he had 20 in the first half or something like that. He was dominant. We went to him. Uh, it's just the Heat. It's just because it's the Heat. That's it.
No, but you
For me.
pointed out, you made a good point there, which I think, you're right. They're healthy at the right time.
Mm,
And they didn't even have Hero last postseason.
yeah.
He was injured that whole time. So, he's their second or third best offensive player. They're going to need him to do a lot offensively. And they didn't have Rozier, like the Heat is just a different team this season,
Mm-hmm.
but we are too. Like
Yes.
Porzingis gives us the size that we didn't have, and like Bam has always been like a nightmare for us for that reason. This team is bigger. The Celtics team, I mean, is just bigger, more size, and I think we've seen that in the matchup. But you're right. I'm probably going to be
It's
eating my words when we lose game 1 at home and like on like a Jimmy Butler buzzer beater or a Terry Rozier buzzer beater, and I'm like,
yep. Scary Terry back in the
The thing
building.
is, if we lose to this Heat team, we were never going to win the finals.
That's
Like,
it. That's
it's
it.
just like, okay, fine. It would be horrible. It would be a horrible outcome for a team that's going to win, upwards of 64 games. But I'm not that afraid of it. I want
Yeah.
it. I want the smoke.
You want the smoke. And you know what? I want the smoke too. When I say it's just the team that even a regular season game, when I'm watching against the Heat, you can ask my wife. She just, the room is filled with tension. I just don't like playing them because at
Yeah.
any minute, I just feel like something terribly wrong is going to happen. But it is true. The reason that they've screwed us late in games is because they go to a zone and Jason Tatum freaks out getting played by a zone. He like can't break the zone. We've been so much better at that with Kristaps in the center. So again, we are any of these teams that we play, even if it's Sixers with a healthy Embiid and Embiid's playing at an MVP level, we should beat all of these teams.
Agreed.
We absolutely, and if we don't, like you said, we don't deserve to win the championship because if we run up against Denver in the finals, we have some woes against them. We've lost 2 games this season against them. If it's a mentality thing against the Heat and we lose, it's like, well, then we're not mentally tough enough to beat Denver for sure. And so I agree with you. It's just interesting that so many teams, like, it's wild that the Heat are the exact same place they were last year. It's just feels like it's setting up for something.
It
How
feels
about
destined. It feels totally destined for us to meet up with them in the first round.
I like your take though about wanting them because that would shut up a lot of people, and it would also be huge for the confidence of the Celtics moving forward. And I also love the 61 and 16, the palindrome of dominance. That's great. I love that.
Got that. Yeah. Okay.
That's really good. Well, then after that, like speaking of other matchups, because
Yeah.
of the injuries, the East is in such a strange place, right? So right now, the 3, 4, and 5 spots are covered by the Cavs, the Magic, and the Knicks. That could change in a week's time, but as of right now, those are the 3, 4, 5 matchups. We, as the number 1 seed, would be getting the winner of the 4-5 matchup. So that right now, as it stands, is Magic and Knicks. But let's take that as Pacers, Knicks, Magic, Cavs. Out of
Right.
that group, who's the scariest, or who would you want? Actually, let's frame it. Who would you want to play the most in that group?
Yeah, that's maybe a better way. I mean, to answer the question the first way, first of all, like the answer definitely would have been the Knicks before the Randall injury.
Yeah.
I maybe it still is actually, even though I think that really hurts them, obviously, and Randall specifically has given us problems, and
Yeah.
yeah, he's an explosive offensive player, and they're without him. Brunson has been amazing, scoring in the 30s seemingly every night. But the Knicks without Randall, I feel comfortable with them. Who do I most want to see? I think this is going to differ from you. I think the Magic.
Magic.
I mean, the Magic have given us some problems. I just think their youth and inexperience. I just don't see a universe in which the Celtics lose more than a game or two to the Magic.
Yeah.
And then it's simple as that, right?
Yeah.
These other teams, the Cavs are in a weird spot because, the Cavs, I think, are almost the scariest to me at this point, even though they have not been good of late. Mitchell's been in a lot of, the subject of a lot of conversation about what's he going to do next season? He's not going to be a Cav and all this stuff. And yet, like, I guess I fear teams that can take advantage of clutch situations against the Celtics.
Yeah.
Is our biggest weakness. So,
Yep.
if we're going to be in a close game against a team, do they have personnel who can, who can score in the clutch and who can win games, close games? Donovan Mitchell, Garland, they've got some
Garland,
guys
yeah.
there. I just feel less worried about the Magic guys, even though they're a great team. I mean, like this Magic team is right there. They could be the 3rd seed by the end of all this. It wouldn't surprise me. And then the Pacers, again, we're gonna get into like an offensive, boat race with this team.
Yeah.
Bring it on. I
Yeah.
don't feel afraid of a team that's going to try to beat us with offense.
Yeah. Pacers, I'm not worried about, even though we did go 2 and 3 this season against them. We had because the play
We
in
played
5 games.
Times, yeah.
But again, and that was 3 of those games were at home or at their place. And I think the team that I most want to see is probably the Magic for all the reasons you said, clutch situations especially, like late down the stretch, or the Wagner brothers. brothers going
Don't
to
even talk about it.
going to actually
And
be
it's
able to
Wagner, by the way.
Wagner, whatever.
I don't know.
You can't tell me about anything about the Wagner brothers, whatever it is. You know what? Let's just stop
Wagner.
talking about them altogether.
Let's never bring them up on this podcast again.
Watch, now we're going to play the Magic and we're going to have to learn how to pronounce their names. But I think, so there's two answers. I think Magic is the team I would most want to see. Again, if we cannot come out of a 7-game series with 4 wins against any of these teams, it doesn't matter. We're not winning the championship. But the team I most want to see is going to be a huge surprise. It's the Knicks.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that at this point without Randall. Yeah.
It's without Randall and OG Anunoby. That kind of elbow injury is huge, and he's a shooter. It already flared up once and made him miss a couple weeks. That is a tough injury you usually need surgery or at least months off. So,
but OG, he is not healthy, and who knows what state he'll be in by the second round of the playoffs. But yeah. I will say that OG Anunoby has given us a really hard time. The Celtics a really hard time in the past.
Yes.
I remember that Raptors series in 2020.
Oh,
it's been like,
gosh.
OG Anunoby is the best player. I mean, he's not. He
hit that game winner.
Like the best player on that team. Yeah.
Yeah, he hit that game winner in that Raptors. Yeah. Oh, that was such a bad.
I think, yeah, like you're right. The Knicks is a good answer here just because of health. But man, after that OG trade, I would have said this is the second, like above the Bucks, the scariest team in the East in some ways.
Part of my reason for picking the Knicks is it's not necessarily ease of competition. It's also like entertainment value.
I was going to say it's the most entertaining one.
Absolutely. You have Tatum in the Garden. I just want to see Tatum have a historic Garden game. Boston, New York. We haven't gotten a ton of Boston, New York rivalry injections in a while. So like having a nice
series at all. I'm trying to think. Like
last one was with Melo in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Yeah. It was a long time ago. And then before, like, we haven't seen Sox and Yankees in a while. We haven't seen, like Giants, Patriots for a while. We haven't seen any big games between those two teams. So it just would be a nice New York Boston rivalry. And then obviously New York, the mecca of basketball, talk about pressure. Jason Tatum say there's a game 6, something like that in the Garden. Can Jason Tatum prove all those people who say that he's not clutch wrong and get it done in the Garden on the biggest stage? That would be a fun game to watch.
That'd be a fun one. It's funny though. I think we might both agree on this. I feel more nervous about some of our potential matchups in round 1 than round 2.
Yeah.
Just with the state of injuries and it's sort of similar in the West. I'm looking at and we don't have to jump to the West right now, but like I'm looking at some of these play-in teams and thinking, oh boy, like this is going to be an interesting round 1 matchup for the top seeded teams in the West too. So, I mean, there's a world in which, and not just a remote possibility, there's a very strong possibility that the Celtics play the Heat and the Bucks play the Sixers in round 1.
I know. There's a chance
like that the best round 1 matchups ever.
There's a chance that the Celtics, yeah, exactly. I was going to say that would be like it. And you're right about the Sixers. I'm starting to come around about them because of that Embiid. Well, speaking of the West, because the West is super fun to talk about right now with so much talent and a lot of moving parts. Let's move on to the West. Let's just talk about them a little bit because hopefully if Celtics get the job done, we will be seeing one of these teams in the West. Let's hope for that. But before we actually move on to the West, real quick, I want to say, just looked at the Heat game. The Heat are down 41-59. So again, like, are they doing it on purpose?
I was gonna say they like want to be in that spot. They want to be playing for their lives.
I think so. Like, because if you watch that Sixers Heat game, Jimmy Butler looked uninterested, and we know that's not Jimmy Butler. Like, he just looked like he was like, whatever, yeah, Terry, you take the shot. It's just they might be losing this game on purpose to be, and what that would be. That would be very.
This is why I want to play them. I want to teach them the error of their ways.
Yes. See, Tim, Timmy KGB, aka T-Bone Steak Extra Rare, no hollandaise. This is why I love you. You want the smoke. You want the smoke.
I do. This team is not last year's team. Come at us, man.
I agree.
Let's go.
And I'm changing. It's no longer. I want the Heat too. You've converted me. I'm on your side, especially because, like you said, the Celtics are a palindrome of dominance.
Yes,
that's really good. I want a shirt that says that.
We didn't say this, by the way. Before you move on to the West, we didn't say, like. I mean, the Bucks have been a disaster,
right?
But I mean, at least personally speaking, like I would still say of all the teams in this conference, I am the most fearful of playing them. And we will, I'm expecting that to be the Eastern Conference Finals, even as bad as as badly, dare I say, as badly coached as they've been, as up and down as they've been. I mean, they've lost like, what did they lose to the Grizzlies? They lost to the Wizards. I mean,
But the
I
problem
feel
is,
like, yeah, I still think, when it comes down to it, Giannis and Dame, you
so
know,
the
yeah,
Bucks, for all the reasons we want to play the Magic or why we don't want to play the Bucks. It's the clutch time. It's Dame time. He is that guy. But just looking at their defense and the point totals that teams have been putting up on them, these like the Wizards and they're and the Memphis
yeah.
Grizzlies who have a terrible offense put up a ton of points on them. I just like don't. I'm afraid, they're good. You got to respect them as an opponent. It's Giannis, it's Dame, they're amazing. But the only thing that really catches my eye with them is the clutch against us, which is huge. I mean, yeah, I could see Dame Lillard with a heartbreaking game winner in a late game in that series. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Bucks, of course. I think we didn't mention them out of respect because I think we know that out of respect we didn't talk about them and how good they could be. But Doc has these guys playing like hot garbage right
Well,
now.
he's already playing the, blame game of whose fault it is and why
Blaming
they're.
the travel team,
I
like
saw
the
that.
guys who pack your snacks are not the reason that you're losing. Like that was the weirdest interview, but it's such a Doc interview to be like, well, it's not our fault. I've been looking at he said, I've been watching everything. I've been
Yeah.
watching the travel staff. And it's like, what? Like, what are you talking about?
But you could easily see them catching some sort of tailwind and
Yeah.
getting hot at the right moment. I don't know. Anyway, let's
Yeah.
move on to the West. Don't
The
want to talk about
West, the
Bucks.
West, which the West is insane. Also, again, just like the play-in, the numbers being so tight, the East is top heavy, but the West is crazy. So Mavs are the fifth seed. Obviously, the first couple of the top three seeds are all within 1.5 games of each other. So like the top seed could be to anybody. Right now, Denver's holding it. I think OKC is a game and a half behind them, and I don't with Shea kind of in and out of the lineup along with Williams. I don't know if they're going to grab the number one spot. It looks like it's going to be between the Timberwolves and the Nuggets. But as far as the play-in goes, you have Mavs at 5, 6.5 games behind. Suns at 6, 7.5 games behind. Pelicans at 7, 8.5 games behind. Lakers at 8, 9 games behind. Kings at 9, 9.5 games behind, and the Warriors 11.5 games behind in that 10th spot, which they've basically secured. The Rockets had a little push, but the Rockets are now like 15 games behind, so they're not going to make that play in. But there's still a chance. They still have a hope. But this is just the craziest play in and kind of like 5 to 10 team that we've ever seen. I mean, we have Luka and Irving on the Mavs. We have KD, Booker, and Beal on the Suns. We have Zion and BI on the Pelicans. We have LeBron and AD on the Lakers. We have obviously Light the Beam, the Kings, and then we have Steph and those boys. The Warriors. There's just like so much pedigree in like one little chunk of teams that are all on the bottom of the barrel of this West. Not to mention obviously Jokic and SGA and all the guys on the top. So what's your take on the West? Like, what are you seeing as we kind of take a leap into playoff time here?
I'm seeing a lot of really fun potential. Again, fun potential first round matchups. Like,
Yeah,
this is another. I mean, this conference, like, the upset potential is real. I don't know about the Nuggets. Like, I think the Nuggets will win against whoever they face.
yeah,
Uh, but the Warriors, the Warriors have had this like bizarre season,
yeah,
right? I mean, so many ups and downs, and Clay's on the bench and he's starting, and the Draymond stuff, and you know, they're looking good right now. And like you said, they secured this 10th seed, and they're gonna have a chance to get in there, and I think they
mm-hmm.
will. I think they'll get into the playoffs, and they're dangerous. So Nuggets, Warriors, again, I don't think the Warriors will win that series, but that's gonna be a great series. It's gonna be a really
Yeah.
fun series. Talk about a team with experience. Obviously, the Warriors have done it over and over again. And the year that they won, that they beat us, I mean, they weren't. Were they a play-in team that year, or were they just above the play-in?
I
They
think they
were a
were
lower
just.
seed that year.
I think they were just no, yeah, they were just above the plan because the only playing game that they were in, they lost to the Lakers.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
But they've come from lower seeds and made deep runs. So who knows? And again, the Nuggets might not be the 1 seed. So
yeah,
that could be like if the Warriors get into this play-in or get into the playoffs from the play-in and they play the Wolves, who are great. Obviously, you don't get a record as good as the Wolves without being a great team. Like I could see upset potential in
Yeah.
that series. Wolves have been without Cat. They're supposed to get him back near the end of the regular season. We'll see what happens there. Edwards obviously has been he's a personal favorite of both of ours, and he's been
Yeah.
amazing. But uh, I could see that, and then you see the Lakers as a potential matchup against whoever gets that 2 seed, whether it's the Thunder, the Wolves, or the Nuggets, or whatever.
Yeah.
All those permutations in the play-in are going to be great. Um, I'm
I
looking
got
at
my
the
eye
other
on the
team.
Lakers.
I had my eye on the Lakers too. I mean, I think Lakers and Warriors. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Steph, it's LeBron, it's AD, it's these guys that again, as sort of inconsistent as their seasons have been, not necessarily individually, but as a team, you still sort of trust them in any series. And there's a lot of it's like weird because there's a lot of youth near the top, with
Mm-hmm.
the Thunder and Wolves, and there's a lot of experience near the bottom. So we'll see what happens, and
So
it's
cool. It's so
fascinating. But
cool.
and look, I'm looking at the other teams here. I think the Kings are just in a downward spiral. I mean,
Yeah.
they're just not. They lost Monk.
Mm-hmm.
We played them, and we just played our deep bench.
Yep.
There was a lot of Svi Mikhailuk action, and they couldn't quite close the gap. I turned it off, and then I looked at my phone. I'm like, oh, we won by
Yeah.
one. Weird. Sabonis has looked weird. He looked weird in that game. I don't know.
Mm.
So I just think the Kings they just don't have it this year. Pels, I don't know. I
And
just
especially if the Kings are, if they're going to get in from the play-in, that's a 7 or 8 spot. Them playing the Nuggets or
yeah, they're
either
done.
Timberwolves, they're just going to be done. I think the Lakers out of those are I think the Lakers, if they meet Jokic and the Nuggets, if that happens to be the lineup, then that's over.
Yeah, whichever of these teams happens to get the misfortune of meeting up with the Nuggets will be a non-starter probably, but
Exactly.
those other two top teams in the Thunder and the Wolves, those are
Especially the Wolves.
yeah.
I could see the Lakers beating the Wolves, and
Yeah.
then out of that, they would get the 3 and the 6. So they'd play either the Sun. Like I could see LeBron beating the Suns in the second round. I mean, so it's such an interesting. There's just like you
It's one
said.
of these it's one of these years where like you're looking at how it's going to shake out, and the Suns could shift. I could see them shifting down, probably not up. The Mavs are the 5th seed right now, but
Yeah.
you kind of want that 3rd seed. Like in my opinion, you kind of want to play Phoenix at this
Yep.
point. I don't know. I mean, that's just how I feel, as opposed to some of those other lower seeded teams we've been talking about. I said this before. The Mavs have a great matchup in the Clippers in the first round.
Yep.
Clippers team. It's weird because like you've got Kawhi, Paul George. Like the defensive reputation is so strong, but they've been a terrible, terrible defensive team. Uh,
Terrible.
and that's bad news when you're going against like the best offensive scorer of his
Yeah.
generation.
Exactly.
So it's gonna be interesting. All those matchups are really fun. And the question is, you've got these young teams like the Thunder and the Wolves. Can they make deep runs when? Yeah, I mean the Wolves have had big playoff series before, but uh, yeah, they're
Well, I mean,
tested, inexperienced.
yeah, the inexperience, and again, I love the Timberwolves. They play great. Talking about defense, they do the opposite. They play amazing defense. They're one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Yeah.
But I think the Timberwolves are the most sketchy top team. I trust SGA and even playing the Thunder. The Celtics played the Thunder last week, and without SGA, that team is just a good team. They're well
Yes.
coached and they play amazing defense, but they move the ball so well, and they're just even without SGA, you would think we still
And
beat them,
Jalen
but
Williams
and
wasn't
Jalen Williams was out, yeah,
a
and he's
good
been
one.
out. But it looks like they're going to be healthy for the playoffs. But the Timberwolves just seem we haven't seen we haven't seen Anthony Edwards really in the playoffs at all. We
Well,
haven't seen what he's going to provide. And then Cat coming back from this injury, you know, is he gonna be able to hold up? Scoring is their issue on that side.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in this group, like I feel like I have a better handle on the East in terms of who I think the actual contenders are,
Yeah.
right? But like, how many of these teams would you say are actual contenders to come out of the West? Because
I have
I'm going
4.
down like the Nuggets for sure.
Yep. I think the Mavs
Okay,
and I think the Thunder
okay, yeah, I would agree with all those.
and I think the Lakers. Those are my 4.
Sure, but not the Wolves. Can we see a path for the Timberwolves? I could see a path. I mean, I have a hard time
I can
imagining.
see a path. They're the second seed. I can absolutely see a path, but out of the teams that I trust the most, there's a reason. I don't know what it is. But there's a reason that I think they're gonna get ousted pretty early, especially if they face the Lakers. I'm taking Lakers in that first round easily. Easily, I'm taking them.
Boy, wow. I don't know. I mean, yeah, maybe. I could see them winning it. I don't know if I would. Yeah, I don't know. That would be really fun.
Who are your
Uh,
contenders?
I agree with all those. Yeah, it's hard for me to put the Suns in at this point, but
Yeah.
you might have to squeeze them into that group. I don't know if they win that first series, like because again, you would be inclined to think that the Thunder that's a favorable matchup for them, but then again, it's like you never know. The theme of this all is like the KD of it, the Booker of it, like
Yeah.
Beal if he's healthy, and the vision of what that team was supposed to be, which just hasn't come together. And it's been like when we played them, and they just have the whiff of a team that has no identity, like
Yeah.
absolutely no identity. Um, in the playoffs, things slow down. KD, these guys. So you never know. They could like take this Thunder team by surprise. I don't think that'll happen, but if they do, I could see them making a deeper run. But yeah, I think you have it right. The team I'd look out for is the Mavs. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
handling the Clippers and then going on to play the Nuggets and who knows, like maybe surprising the Nuggets and making it a tough series.
Yeah. I don't know what their current record against the Nuggets was this year, but they just they've looked like a different team over the last like 15 games. They just look really good.
And the
And
Kyrie thing
again,
has really worked out
yeah,
this year.
absolutely. More than I thought it would. I thought that was going to be a disaster, especially with Luca. He seems like, are they going to be able to play together?
They
Out
got
of
rid
these
of
teams,
toxic locker room presence, Grant Williams.
well, they got rid of him in like 2 seconds.
I feel like everyone in the NBA hates Grant Williams, and I don't really. I mean, I kind of I kind of love him. I mean, like
Dude, and
everyone hates him. Even Mike Gorman was like, "Oh yeah, Grant Williams sucks." He said
well,
that on a
even
radio show. He was very openly like anti-Grant Williams. This guy can't
even
catch
all
a
the
break.
players from the Celtics that were like, "Oh, I love Grant," but they're trash talking him and like beating him up the whole entire game. Like, I don't think they really like him. It's like that one friend that you just make fun of all the time and you invite him for a little bit of comedic relief. That was me, by the way.
Yeah,
I was that
right.
friend. I learned the hard way how that works. Out of these teams, like again, I cannot emphasize it enough how amazing the first round matchups of both the East and the West are going to be. Like, it is incredible. And I cannot stop talking about how talented the West is. Like, top down, there's so many people that are eligible for superstar status from 1 seed to 10 seed, or have been in the past at least. Out of all the teams, though, a lot of scary teams. Presumably, if the Celtics get done what they need to get done and get to the finals in an East that is talented and frisky for sure, but 61-16, we absolutely should get to the finals. Who do you want to see the most, and who do you not want to see the most? Like, what is the team that you really don't want to see, and then what is the team that you're thinking? And a little caveat for who you do want, it has to be one of those contenders that
Yeah,
we
one of
just
those ones, right?
yeah, you
That's why I
can't say
asked earlier.
Pelicans,
Yeah.
obviously not. Yeah.
Well, the answer of who you don't want to see is the Nuggets, and that's like
Yep.
not even a conversation
Yeah.
because the Nuggets are, and it seems like if we do make it out of the East, we'll probably be seeing them. I mean, I look at all these teams, even the ones we've just discussed, and I kind of have a hard time envisioning the Nuggets losing a series to any of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that's how much respect I have for the Nuggets. So yeah, the Nuggets is the team I don't want to see. Although that would be awesome and it would be an amazing final series. But yeah, I mean, I think we said I would love to see a team like Phoenix.
Yeah.
Um,
That's what I have here written down as
so
the Suns.
because again, I just think, yeah, I don't know. I think that team is maybe capable of winning, like surprising people in a couple series, but ultimately, yeah, no identity.
Also, Jason Tatum plays so well
Yeah,
against
he played
KD.
great against KD.
Yeah, he
Exactly.
loves playing against KD. I have Suns for ease, like Suns for like we would win the championship if that was the case. But I have Lakers for gravity and lore. Again, same thing like with the Knicks.
Oh, that would be amazing. I mean, like, I would love. Can you imagine if the Lakers make this deep run and we end up meeting in the? I mean, that would be. You're right. I changed my pick. That's the one I want to see the most,
That would be the best.
just for my pleasure and my happiness.
Because obviously it's race to 18. Both teams have 17 banners, most in the NBA. So it's race to banner number 18. You have LeBron James, who was basically ruled like nobody thought the Lakers could do anything all year. They've been playing a little bit better, looking good. It's still LeBron, it's still AD. Yeah, so there'd be a ton of storylines around it, and then it'd be Jason Tatum with redemption from 2022 finals. And who does he have to go up against? the greatest rivalry in sports history. That just would be so much fun.
It'd be
And
amazing.
obviously, like I think we match up well against the Lakers. We've beaten them, I think, 4 of the last 4 times. Like we have handled them the last couple of seasons. And again, Tatum plays well against the Lakers. He always has good numbers. And when it comes down to it in a finals, you just need your best player playing his best. We learned that the hard way in
Plus,
2022.
it would be cool to see like, his first playoff, Jason's first playoff run was that, meeting up with the LeBron Cavs,
Oh,
and the block and everything, and we ended up losing that series, of course. And to have him like having reached this like different level of maturity, meet up with LeBron again in this big moment. I don't know.
and
We're
get it
geeking
done.
out over it, but that would be obviously very cool.
That would be the best. And for people who don't know, I have the utmost respect for LeBron James, but there's nobody I would rather beat in a finals than LeBron James, because I am a Michael Jordan is the GOAT guy. And if LeBron James can lose another finals, that's just more weight on my argument. But on the other side, like you said, it's the Nuggets. Murray was out for a little bit, and without Murray, they're a different team.
Yeah,
And
totally.
currently, Aaron Gordon has a foot injury that is kind of up in the air about what his timetable has been. He played through a game with it, but then immediately was taken out. So they're one
He'll
of
be
those
fine.
teams. I think he'll be fine, especially if it comes down to the finals. He's not going to be out for that long. But they're just such a well-rounded team, and they've been there before, and they've beaten us 2 times this year. And to go back to the Stars, got to play well in the finals. Tatum has not played well against them this year. He seemed to be stymied by them for some reason. Maybe it's their length. They have a lot of length, and he's had trouble with length in the past. But that would be definitely the toughest. And mine was Suns. I also would love the Mavs. Too young, that would be
Yeah.
fun. Irving back in the Boston Garden, and just Luka versus Tatum. And again, I think then also Kristaps Porzingis back with against Dallas.
Right.
Like a lot of storylines there too. But so much fun. Like the Warriors are 10. So it'll be, if it's as it stands right now, the Pelicans would play the Lakers in the play-in. Lakers win that, I
Yeah.
think. And then the Kings play the Warriors in the play-in. Warriors beat them, I think. So we would have Lakers moving on to the 7th seed playing the Timberwolves, which I think they would win. And then you would have the Warriors playing the Pelicans, and I think Warriors would win that and
Yeah,
get in
that
the
makes
8th
sense.
seed. Yeah.
And then lose to the Nuggets,
And
probably.
lose to Nuggets. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that would be, if they were to beat the Nuggets, that would be that. Maybe Gordon would be out for that series though. So
Yeah, it's
yeah.
true. I'm just anxious for the playoffs to start. At this point, I'm kind of bored with this end of the regular season. I mean, the play-in games are going to be great, so I'm excited for all that. But what's your confidence level with the season heading in? Are you feeling good? I want to share a stat here because
Yeah.
I was looking at, I did a little research. I don't usually do this. I want to ask you. So we're the number one overall seed, right?
Yep.
And like, there's a lot of confidence. We should get out of the East. We should. There's like all this stuff. I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I was like looking up. So like, when was the last time a number one overall seed won the NBA Finals? So do you
Oh
know?
boy. Let me think. Let me think
Just the
about
best
what
record in the NBA winning the finals.
Warriors 2015.
That is correct, but 2017.
2017. Oh, okay.
Warriors.
Because I know it
But
wasn't 16 because they lost to LeBron, so I went back. But 2017. Okay.
I mean, you go year by year, it just doesn't happen. Like number one seeds
Yeah.
have not fared particularly well. Like 23, Nuggets won, the Bucks were the 1 seed. They lost in the first round, as we know. 22, Warriors won. The Suns were the 1 seed. They had a horrible collapse against the Mavs in the second round. So track this. That's first round, second round.
Yeah.
2021, the Bucks. And who was the number 1 seed that year? If you can guess this off the top of your head. So the Bucks won the championship that
In
year.
2021.
2021. Who was the number 1 seed, just in terms of record?
I'm gonna just guess it wasn't the Celtics, was it?
It was the Jazz. Okay.
Oh, that team.
Yeah,
Oh
that's it,
man.
right. So the Jazz. So and then the Bucks again. So the Jazz lost in the second round to the Clippers. So again, round loss, second round loss, first round loss. These are one overall seeds. 2020 Lakers won the championship. Right. The Bucks were the one overall seed. They lost 4-1 to Miami in once again the second round.
Oh
So just
boy.
the past like 5 or 6 years, it seems like early losses
Yeah.
for number one overall seeds. And then you get past that. Again, 2019 Raptors won the title. The Bucks were the 1 seed. They lost to the Raptors in the Eastern Conference Finals, so they went to the
Right.
Eastern Conference Finals. Then we have Golden State Warriors lost to the top seed Rockets. in the Western Conference Finals. So
Oh
you have
yeah.
to go back all the way to 2017 before the team that was the best in the league won the championship.
But what was the difference between what's the similarity between 2017 Warriors and us? That's different than those other teams.
uh, I don't know. I mean, like 2017 Warriors had been there before.
Historically dominant though.
Yeah, well, but even more so the 73 win. But the 73 win,
They
Warriors
lost.
lost. They
They
lost.
lost.
So
Yeah, they lost in game 7. Of course, Kyrie Irving hit that game winner at the end of that, and LeBron had the famous block.
you're right. I mean, this Celtics team is like statistically one of the handful of like best teams, in the history of the NBA.
Yeah.
Well, let's say top 15, whatever. Um, I don't know. Those numbers scare me, and like I really feel like I hope the Celtics enter the playoffs with an axe to grind. Like we don't want to lose a single game.
Mm-hmm.
The complacency factor here with the narrative and where we've been down the stretch, being able to rest guys. I hope it doesn't bleed into that first round, especially with some of these tough matchups, because it's not going to be easy getting out of the East, and it certainly won't be easy whoever we face in the West. So I say my confidence is high, but I'm also like quite aware of the possibility of a big letdown.
All Celtics fans know that the complacency of this team and the lack of urgency is what has lost us every single playoff series in the last 4 years. That every
Definitely
time
what
we have
lost us
lost,
the Heat series. I mean, that was, yeah.
Yeah, and it lost us the Warriors in the finals. Absolutely, like it seemed. And Tatum had a good quote recently. I think he was in an interview with like Malika Andrews from NBA.com or whatever, or NBA Insider, and he basically talked about how last year they just were so eager. He said they were so eager to get back to the finals that they were getting over their skis. He didn't use the term over the skis, but he was like, we just wanted to get there so bad, and so we struggled with the Hawks because we were like, these guys are nothing. And he said this year is a completely different mentality. But I talked about it last episode of the Dribble. I am worried that we haven't played an important game in like 2 months. Like
even the ones against good teams, it's like, all right, let's go Thunder. Oh wait, no Shea, no J-Dub. And then you're like, let's go Bucks. Oh wait, they're not playing. Like, all of the quote unquote important games have been missing a superstar or something like that.
And have not had any weight. We've had this number 1 seed. Even if we didn't have it locked in a month ago, we basically had it. I mean, we were still up by 11 games. And so that's the one thing I am worried about. That's why the Heat are the scariest team to me. Like, because I think, but to your point, the Sixers could be, because we've dealt with them so many times. I could easily see the Celtics getting the Sixers and being like, oh, Sixers, yep, we're fine with this. We know what we can do against this team. And then Embiid going off. That's an interesting stat. I did not know that so many get out in the first round, second round. That is kind of crazy.
Yeah, the only teams in the past 10 years to do it are the Warriors and the Spurs.
Wow. So
2014 Spurs, that's 10 years ago.
I will say this, like we mentioned, my confidence with the Celtics is super high, because there's another stat that I saw, I don't have it in front of me, but teams with like an 11 plus minus, like like point differential and wins, have like basically all won. The top 5 have all won the championship. We are the bottom of that. I think we're like 11.2 or something point differential. And, on the little stat that I saw, it was a question mark, question mark, question mark. Do they win? And, so that's good company to be in. But I think if we make it out of round 1, when we make it out of round 1, but like playing a team that, like you said, the Heat, that gives us confidence if we beat them, that will get the motor running. But nothing can really get your motivation going quite like actually playing important games. Like you can before the game be like, all right, we got to get into playoff mode. So like, let's treat this like a playoff game. But like human instinct is super real. And if you're not actually fighting for your life in some of these games, which all of these teams, both East and West, are fighting for seeding. We just talked about it. They're all like within a game and a half of each other. So every single night is a do or die. And they're going to make it in. And then they have a play-in, which is a do or die. And then they hit, like, we could easily meet a team that's like, what's up? We've been in bar fights all night. Like, so right. It doesn't matter if you hit me in the face. I won't even feel it. I'm numb. So like, and we're like, oh, we just got to the bar. Can I order 1 beer before we start? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like we've
definitely been on autopilot. It feels like the last like big meaningful game we played was against the Nuggets. Yeah.
Which has reverted us to a little bit of ISO ball too.
But that's why I say I'm excited for them to start, because I just really want to see how we respond and how the Celtics look as they get into those big situations. But yeah, I don't know. Good talk. I think we nailed some good stuff.
Let's go ahead and sign off, dude. Great talk. Awesome. I cannot wait. The playoffs start in like 2 weeks. Like I said, so excited about the play-in games too. And we're gonna have you back on, obviously, throughout the whole playoffs. We're gonna go over every single game. We're gonna try probably some instant reactions to some big games. Get Wacky Mackey in here. Wacky Mackey Pataki.
The full brothers, the full complement of brothers.
The full complement of brothers.
The brotherhood. The podcast to the full complement of brothers.
Oh, I'll get on that. All right, dude. Well, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, bud.
Peace. Okay, so another great segment with Timmy KGB talking about the playoff picture, what we can expect moving forward, and kind of who we're looking at for potential matchups for the Celtics, and then down the road with the West, who's going to come out of the West. Like I said, I'm still a little bit worried about the Lakers. They look good. Like I said in the beginning, the season's coming to an end, and the Celtics only have 4 more games left in the regular season, including the one that they are playing, or not including the one they're playing right now against the Portland Trailblazers. That's when we're recording this on Sunday, April 7th. But after the game with the Portland Trailblazers, we have at Milwaukee. Could be a good test, depending on if people are healthy. Then we play New York, Charlotte, and the Washington Wizards. So really just the last little stretch of basketball here. New York and Milwaukee are going to be good ones because we could face both of them in either a round 2 or an Eastern Conference Finals matchup. So that's going to be super exciting seeing how we kind of pair up with them again, depending on health. So yeah, I think that's it. That's all we got to say. I think Timmy KGB and I broke down this playoff scene, and tune in next week and the week after that and the week after that, because we are going to go full dive into these playoffs across the board. Everything Celtics, obviously, but we'll give you the landscape of all the other teams involved in the playoffs as we go. Next week is going to be a good one because things are going to be solidified around the NBA. Going to be a fun one. But for now, I'm going to sign off because this has been the Dribble.